Hi, I'm John Mack, and I'm delighted to be the host for this episode 8 of Solos, a co-production of the Rock River Players and the Hooker Dunham Theater. Solos celebrates the creative spirit. I'd like to give special thanks to Annie Landenberger, the founder of the Rock River Players, and a tremendous supporter of this series through her writing, acting, directing, and in this episode, she is the producer. I'd also like to thank Austin Rice, our steady videographer, for his excellent and consistent work. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This monologue is performed by Eliza towards the end of the play. At this point, she has gained clarity about her relationship with Henry Higgins, and she has recognized her own worth. She realizes that she deserves more than the way she's being treated and stands up for herself. This is the empowered side of her character.
Aha! Now I know how to deal with you! What a fool I was not to think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. Aha, now that's done you, Henry Higgins, it has. Now, I don't care for your bullying and your big talk. I'll advertise it in the papers that your duchess was only a flower girl that she taught, and that she'll teach anyone to be a duchess just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. Oh, when I think of myself crawling under your feet and being trampled on and called names, when all the time I had only to lift up my finger to be as good as you, I could just kick myself.
Charles, written and directed by Michael Nethercott, performed by Joel Kaemmerlen. A New York City actor in the 1980s responds to a colleague's success.
Deserve? You think you deserve that role, Sandy? Look, I'm happy as hell for you. I really am. But to say that you deserve it, that you've been, busting your butt for all these years now? Decades? Epochs? Jesus, Sandy, you're young. Young and pretty and straight. Come on, you just nailed a role in a film that millions of people are gonna see. Who knows what that could be a springboard to? You could be in the next Jack Nicholson movie, or share the screen with Katharine Hepburn, or Molly Ringwald. So, please, forgive me if I don't wring my hands and coo, oh, poor, poor baby, they shouldn't have made you wait this long for your fame. Hey, you're getting a chance that most of us will never have. Most actors. Don't you even realize that? Oh, you think you deserve it? I'm sorry. Oh my God. Do you want to know where I was this morning? I was at a funeral for a young and beautiful man. He's just 23 years old. Anthony. His name was Anthony. Italian kid from the Bronx. I never even really knew him well. Off stage anyways, but he always impressed me. He was an actor. Certainly better than me. Probably than you too. Last year, before he got sick, I saw him in the Glass Menagerie down at the Cherry Lane. People couldn't take their eyes off him. Not just because of his good looks, but his electricity. Even when he was just standing on stage without a line, he just crackled. It's the word for it. He wasn't just playing a part. He was seeing the world through another man's eyes. And that's what we strive for as actors, isn't it? To immerse ourselves inseparably with another life, one that's not our own. Just remember seeing him up there and thinking, this kid's gonna fly. He's really gonna fly. But he never got the chance. All his T cells just withered and died. His immune system collapsed and he became a living skeleton. And then an actual skeleton. Sandy, this is the third AIDS-related funeral I've been to this month. The third. At least the mom and sister were there this time. Not that they'd speak to anyone or accept condolences. Dad never even showed. Never goddamn showed. Someone said he was a master machinist who was always so disappointed his son never picked up the family trade. Now, I guess that disappointment probably paled in comparison to what he felt when he found that his son preferred dicks to drill bits. If anyone deserved anything, any success, it was him. People should be looking up and seeing his name in the credits of some great film, or opening up a Broadway playbill and seeing his name there. Anthony Taccardo. Instead of on the gravestone in the backlot of some cemetery. So just to hear you moaning about how I just, I just really need to get going right now, okay? Hey. Good luck with the part.
This little yarn, a windy tale from a traffic jam, is told in Fred's own brogue as though addressed to a collection of tavern nabobs. This tale was suggested to me by a similar journey my hat took in the middle of a busy street, says writer-performer Fred Lawrence.
No, I'm a terrible cook, and my coffee's worse. Well, it's terrible to drink. So, what I do is I go down to the intersection, down out of my apartment, down to the corner, and I wait for the red light. Now, on this particular day, I was standing on the pavement, and the red light comes on, and this massive truck comes up, enormous logging truck with a trailer behind it, piled high with logs, and he stops just in time as I'm about to step off. And at that same moment, an enormous wind comes down, howling down the thoroughfare, and it just blows my hat off. And I'm there bareheaded in the wind howling across my head. And I says, my hat, my favorite warm winter hat, the only one I have. So naturally, I drop down to get the hat, and I go under the bumper of this truck. As I'm going under, this grill, this massive grill, shiny grill, it looks like an altar in a heathen church. And I'm under the bumper, chasing my hat. Before that, I see the fella about to speak to me. He's in the windshield of the truck, and his face is red, and he's about to say something. Well, I'm not going to wait around for that. So under I go, and I chase my hat down under the thing, and another gust of wind makes it tumble down further, just like a wanted woman escaping my reach. And at that point, I have to get further in under the truck, and I'm well under the truck now. I'm heading towards the trailer part. I see the hat tumbling further and further with this wind whooshing out, and my coat is billowing out. I didn't button it. I should have buttoned it. And it's billowing out behind me. And I feel like a sail pushing after my hat. Well, finally, the hat fetches up on one of those enormous tires they have on those trucks. And I get my grips on the hat, and I get it, I put it on top of my head, and snug this time, well down under the head. And at that point, I hear the wailing of sirens. And I look out under the truck, and I see all these people in the intersection coming off the walkways and shouting. And the police cruiser arrives in the middle of the intersection, stops, blocks all the traffic, and this enormous officer of the law alights from the cruiser, and he heads over to the truck. By that time, I see only his legs below the cab, but I suppose was the cab. And he's out there and he's saying, "Hey, fella," he's talking to the driver, he's saying, "You come out of there. You just ran over some poor person." And I don't hear what the driver says, but I'm not going to wait around for that. So I climb out the other side, wiggling and squiggling out under the log trailer, and I stand up on my side of the block, and I slip between parked cars onto the sidewalk pavement, and I'm heading down there to the far intersection. As I said, well, I'll cross the street over there, down the other intersection instead of the one I left. So I'm halfway down there, and I hear more sirens coming, so I beetle down faster to the intersection. I get down there, and I start to cross over there. I get about halfway. I'm jaywalking. That's something I learned in Boston, because I'm heading towards the lovely little cafe that's halfway up the other block. So I'm halfway across the street, and I hear this commotion. I look down towards the first intersection, and I see the driver waving out his hands out the window, and the police officer is down on his hands and knees looking under the truck. And I feel, I really ought to go and tell them there's no need for all the fuss. Yeah, we seen the fella that was supposedly under the truck. We seen him come out the other side and walk down the sidewalk. The fella that's supposed to be crushed. Well, he's not crushed at all. He's walking down the other. So I feel I was an obligation. And then I thought, no, I'd better not. I don't want to get mixed up in that. Next thing you know, I'll be arrested. And what have I done? Innocently going after my hat. So I'm halfway across the street now, and I'm looking towards the cafe, and I'm heading that way. And what do I see but the counter fella come out, and he's out on the sidewalk, and he's waving his apron down towards the intersection at all the noise. And then he spots me as I'm coming across, And I waved to him, and he says, did you see that? He said, one of those damn logging trucks came roaring down here, and it ran over a fella at the intersection down there. Did you see that? I said, oh, my goodness, what a terrible thing, I said. He said, yeah, they ought to do something and they ought to arrest those fellas. And I said, oh, indeed they should. I said, I don't see how people get into such predicaments. There's no need for that. And he says, oh, no, he said, no need for that sort of predicament. And so he turns and he walks into the cafe, a lovely little cafe, and I follow him in. Well, I put that behind me when I closed the door. Believe me, I followed him up to the counter, and he was behind the counter making this coffee. Well, he puts wonderful fresh grounds into this enormous shiny urn sort of thing with knobs and tubes and steam coming out of it and the smell of coffee everywhere. There was no one else at that hour, and that's why I go there. There's no one else in the cafe. There's little tables set around. And so I take my coffee. He passes it over the counter. I pick it up, and he says what he always says. Do you want cream with that? And I say, indeed I do. As always I do.
When her daughter surprises her for a visit, Martine can't wait to tell her about all the exciting news of what just happened during her early morning grocery trip. But will her daughter be able to follow her train of thought?
Oh, hi, honey. I didn't know that you were visiting us today. I am so happy to see you. Hey, can you go get the rest of the groceries from the back of the car? Thank you. Oh, Marissa, you'll never believe who I bumped into today. Anthony Shamelli. Was it Anthony? Marissa! Oh, there you are. Get in here. Put the groceries over there. I was just telling you about Anthony Shamelli. Remember him from kindergarten? He loved that long hair of yours, although now your hair's so short, he probably wouldn't even recognize you. Also, you're an adult now, but you know, it was creepy how obsessed he was with your long hair. Well, he works in the fish department now, and you know, I hate fish, yucky, but I had to go over and say hi. Not Anthony. Was it Anthony? You know what? It wasn't Anthony. It was Chris. Christopher Laughlin, not kindergarten. What was I thinking? 4th grade. You remember the science fair? Pop Rocks? The dog? You remember? Oh, those are the onions your dad likes. Put those over there. Speaking of onions, OMG, did you see this chocolate from Misfits Market? Did you get this in your order too? Oh, you have to try this. Here, have a piece. You know, your father and I started our diet this week, but a little chocolate's good for you. Oh, Marissa, this is so good. You know, it really stunk over there with Chris. Wait, what? Are you sure? No! OMG, Marissa, I cannot believe this. You're right. It's Kevin McLaughlin. Oh, not from 4th grade, from your senior year of high school. Kevin? Oh, I think I called him Anthony the entire time, and he never corrected me. Oh, he must think I'm nuts. Well, he has 2 kids now. I was like, not my daughter. We are not in a rush for grandkids. Oh, and a horse. I had to get something so he wouldn't think I'm crazy. Looks like your father and I are having fish for dinner. Now, I know you're vegan, but what do you say? Why don't you just stay for dinner? Have some of that fish? I know. You're a very busy woman. I know. Well, just know, we love whenever you do visit. So here's the scoop. Look at that. I got black beans. I'll make you a vegan burrito. That way, just clear your schedule. Stay all day. Besides, I have to tell you about the barbecue sauce. You know, the kind your father, you know, your dad, you know him, your father, he loves his barbecue sauce. So I'm in the aisle. It is full of sauces, condiments, dips, dressings. I know you love your condiments, but I just need the barbecue sauce. So I'm looking all around. I'm losing my mind. And I see this cute little boy crouched down, stocking the shelves. Marissa, he is wearing the most adorable red glasses. And I asked him, young man, where did you ever get those glasses? And let me tell you this, Marissa. When he stood up, he was wearing one of those walkie-talkies, you know, the kind that they have when you're working at a grocery store so they can communicate with each other. I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun if the whole family had something like that? It said something about a wild animal being on the loose in the store or something. I don't know. Turns out his glasses were from Lester's on Washington. I can't speak. Washington Street. What are you talking about? Wild animals? Marissa, stay focused. I'm talking about barbecue sauce. Okay, so here's where it gets really funny. Turns out it was right there. It was right in front of me the whole time. You wouldn't believe it. Okay, so you clear your schedule. I have to pee. And then when I come back, I'm going to tell you the whole story. I'm so glad you're here, Marissa. I love you. Mwah!
Anneli Curnock performs one of Hamlet's seminal soliloquies. Hamlet is one of my favorite pieces, says Annie. I relate viscerally to the betrayal and suicidal feelings in this soliloquy. Note the complexity and indecisiveness, the push and pull relationship with his mother. He wants to love her and does, but he's also disgusted, dumbfounded, and angry.
Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. God. Oh, God. How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on it. Aye, fie. 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed things rank and gross in nature, possessed merely. That it should come to this. But 2 months dead. Nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly. Oh, heaven and earth must I remember. Why she would hang on him, as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, yet within a month. Let me not think on it. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little month, or ere those shoes were old, with which she followed my poor father's body like Niobe, all tears. Why she, even she. Oh God, a beast that once his course of reason would have mourned longer. Married. with mine uncle, my father's brother. But no more like my father than I to Hercules. Within a month. And yet the salt from most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her gulled eyes. She married. Oh, most wicked speed to post such dexterity to incestuous sheets. It is not, nor it cannot come to good. Break my heart, or I must hold my tongue.
In the words of Wilfred Owen, my subject is war and the pity of war. The Man He Killed by Thomas Harding speaks out against the Second Boer War of 1899 to 1902 with a tone of question and regret.
Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we'd have set us down to wet right many a nipperkin. But ranged as infantry and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe, of course he was. That's clear enough, although he thought he'd lisp perhaps, offhand, just like I, was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious war is. You shoot a fellow down, you treat if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown.
During World War I, Siegfried Sassoon, a friend of Hardy's and a mentor of Wilfred Owen, was a recklessly courageous and decorated war hero, while at the same time a bitter, often sarcastic, anti-war poet.
If I were fierce and bald and short of breath, I'd live with scarlet majors at the base and speed glum heroes up the line to death. You'd see me with my puffy, petulant face, guzzling and gulping in the best hotels, reading the Roll of Honor. A poor young chap, I'd say. I used to know his father well. And when the war's done and you stone dead, I'd toddle safely home and die in bed.
Owen, a decorated war hero, spoke out from the battlefield, quoting Horace's Dulce et Decorum Est pro patria mori, which translates, "It is sweet and becoming to die for one's country." He authored this among the most famous anti-war poems. Unlike Hardy and Sassoon, who both lived full lives into their 80s, Owen was killed in action at age 25, a week before the armistice that ended World War I.
Bent double like old beggars under sack, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through the sludge. Drunk with fatigue, death even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was shouting out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty pane and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil's sick of sin, if you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling forth from froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitten as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, Dulce Et Decorum Est, pro patria mori.
In this performance, Thomas Ely brings to life the wonderful Wizard of Oz from L. Frank Baum's timeless novel as the wizard helps the Scarecrow appreciate his brain, the lion discover his true courage, and the Tin Woodsman feel his heart. Listen for the universal truths herein.
A scarecrow, anybody can have a brain. It's a very mediocre commodity. Why, every pusillanimous creature that crawls upon the earth or slinks through slimy seas has a brain. Now, back where I come from, we have universities, seats of great learning, where men go to become great thinkers. And when they come out, they think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have. But they have one thing you haven't got: a diploma. Therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Universitatis Comitiatum e Pluribus Unum, I confer upon you the honorary degree Ph.D. That's Doctor of Thinkology. As for you, Lion, my fine friend, you are the victim of disorganized thinking. You are under the unfortunate delusion that simply because you run away from danger, you have no courage. You are confusing courage with wisdom. Back where I come from, we have men who are called heroes. Once a year, they take their fortitude out of mothballs and parade it down the center of the city street. And they have no more courage than you have. But they have one thing you haven't got: a medal. Therefore, for meritorious conduct, extraordinary valor, conspicuous bravery against wicked witches, I award you the Triple Cross. You are now a member of the Legion of Courage. As for you, my galvanized friend, you want a heart. You don't know how lucky you are not to have one. My hearts will never be practical until they can be made unbreakable. Yes, but you still want one. Well, back where I come from, we have men who do nothing all day but good deeds. They are called good deed doers. and their hearts are no bigger than yours. But they have one thing you haven't got: a testimonial. Therefore, at this time I take great pleasure in presenting to you this small token of our esteem and affection. And remember, my sentimental friend, that a heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others. How can I help being a humbug when all these people ask me to do things that everybody knows can't be done? I'm sure it was easy to help Scarecrow and Lion and Woodsman, because they imagined I could do anything. But it will take a lot more than imagination to carry Dorothy back to Kansas. And I for sure don't know how that can be done. Unless perhaps I can take her there myself.